All right. So today we're going to be looking into cottage food insurance.
Sure.
And we're going to be going over a YouTube video that talks about this. And, imagine like you're in your kitchen, you're whipping up these great treats, right? Business is booming.
Hmm.
And then bam, someone says, hey, I got sick from your food.
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of states don't actually require cottage food operations to have insurance.
Right. And that can be a little dangerous because it kind of gives people a false sense of security, right? They
Right.
think, "Oh, I don't need insurance, so I'm fine." But the truth is that cottage food laws usually have very specific low risk items that they deal with, and even with that, there's very limited liability if something were to go wrong.
Okay. So less paperwork doesn't always equal less risk, right?
Exactly.
So, the video goes through 5 different types of insurance that you should think about getting.
Okay.
And before we jump into that, you mentioned that there's limited liability.
Yeah.
With cottage food operations, I'm curious, from a legal perspective, if someone gets sick from your food, what are some of the nuances with cottage food laws versus, let's say, a regular bakery?
Sure. That's a great question. It really depends on how the law defines your business, right?
Yep.
So cottage food operations, a lot of times they fall under different regulations than a commercial food business.
Okay.
So your liability might be capped at a certain amount, or there might be specific exemptions because you're working out of your home kitchen as opposed to a commercial kitchen.
I see. So even though, there are these exemptions,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's still probably crucial to have some sort of insurance in place.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Right.
better to be safe than sorry, especially when you're dealing with food.
Yeah, okay.
The risks can be quite significant.
So let's jump into these 5 different types of insurance that they mentioned. They actually listed them in order of importance, starting with number 5,
Okay.
which is business interruption insurance. And it sounds like that basically protects your income if something happens that causes you to stop production.
Precisely. Yeah. So think about, let's say you have a big holiday order to fill and suddenly your oven breaks down.
Oh, no.
Or let's say you have a power outage due to a big storm or something. So business interruption insurance will cover those lost income and expenses while you're getting things situated.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Number 4 on the list is homeowners insurance endorsement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I already have homeowners insurance, so how is that different?
Right. So standard homeowners insurance, usually they don't cover business activities, even if it's home-based.
Okay.
So this endorsement specifically adds that protection for your cottage food operation, right?
Yeah.
Which is crucial because you're using your home for more than just your typical resident purpose.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's like adding that extra layer of security, on top of your homeowner's insurance.
Exactly.
All right, number 3 on the list is property insurance. And that one seems pretty straightforward. It's basically protecting your equipment and supplies, right?
Exactly, yeah. So let's say you have, your stand mixer that you love,
Right.
and it gets damaged in a flood.
Oh, no.
Or let's say somebody breaks in and steals your supplies or something like that.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So property insurance will help cover those losses
Okay.
so that you can replace those items and get back to baking.
Okay, that's a relief.
Okay.
I know a lot of us cottage food folks, get pretty attached to our tools in the kitchen.
Of course.
So number 2 on the list, and I have a feeling this is a really big one, especially when you're dealing with selling food,
Right.
is product liability insurance.
Yes, that one is essential, especially if you're selling food. So basically what product liability does is it protects you if a customer says that they got sick or were injured because of something that you made.
Right.
And so, let's talk about that a little more specifically with cottage food laws, right? A lot of times those focus on low risk items, but even with those, things can go wrong.
Right.
Maybe somebody has an allergic reaction to something that, that you didn't know about, or there was a labeling error or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So product liability will help cover your legal fees and any damages that you may owe.
Oh, okay. So that's a big one.
Yeah.
And then finally, the number 1, the most important insurance that the video said that you need to get as a cottage food business is general liability insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming this is kind of like, your catch-all.
Exactly. Think of it as like an overall safety net, right?
Okay.
So it covers common business mishaps. Like,
Okay.
let's say a customer trips and falls in your driveway, or they get burned by a hot tray during a pickup or something like that.
Okay.
So it's really protection against those accidents that can happen in any business.
Right.
But especially relevant when you're operating out of your home.
Yeah. They gave an example in the video of someone trips over a delivery box.
Right.
And it's like you would never think about that until it happened.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why it's usually considered the most critical type of insurance for any business, especially ones operating from home, because, the lines are blurred between your personal life and your business life.
Right, right.
And it protects you from those unexpected oops moments.
Yeah. It's interesting because we're talking about all these different types of insurance, and I'm kind of thinking like, emotionally, as a cottage food business owner, it can be very personal, right?
Right.
You're putting a lot of yourself into your product, and the thought of something going wrong, especially with food, it can be scary.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
It can be kind of scary.
And you hit on a really important point. I mean, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster of emotions,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And those anxieties are very real. But knowing that you have some sort of safety net in place, like insurance, can give you a little bit more peace of mind and allow you to really focus on what you love to do, which is creating delicious food.
So it's about protecting, not just your finances, but also your passion and your dream.
Absolutely. And, while the video highlights these 5 common types of insurance, it's important to remember that it's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Right.
Right. There might be other risks that are specific to your cottage food business that require tailored coverage.
Yeah, it's like making a recipe, right?
Mhm.
You got to have all the right ingredients in the right portions to get the right dish.
Exactly.
And the ingredients in this situation are the different types of insurance that you need.
Absolutely. And just like a good recipe, as your business grows and changes, your insurance plan should evolve as well.
Okay.
What worked for you when you were just starting out might not be sufficient as you expand your product line or you have more customers.
So it's not a set it and forget it.
It is definitely not a set it and forget it.
Okay.
Reassessing your risks and your insurance coverage is crucial to making sure that you're adequately protected as your business flourishes. But how do you know what insurance is right for you?
Right. Right. I mean, that's a great question, and I bet our listeners thinking the same thing.
Right.
Like, where do I even begin?
Exactly. I mean, we've talked about all the different types of insurance.
Right.
But now the question is, which ones are essential for you, and how do you find the right provider?
Yeah. That's where things start to get interesting.
Absolutely, because now we're going to go from the theoretical to the practical.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, let's dig into that right after this.
Okay.
Okay. So we've kind of covered like the basics of those 5 key insurance types.
Right.
But as you said, it's not a one size fits all.
Exactly.
So how does a cottage food entrepreneur, how do they actually figure out what they need? Is there some sort of magic formula?
Well, I wish there was a magic formula, right? We'd all be set. But really, it comes down to understanding your individual business
Okay.
and what risks are involved, right? So, what are you making? How are you selling it? Do you
Oh,
deliver? Do you have employees?
gotcha.
All these factors are gonna play a role.
Yeah. Sounds like there's a lot to consider.
Yeah,
I bet our listeners probably feeling a little overwhelmed right now.
it's understandable. It can feel very overwhelming.
Right.
But that's why it's important to get specific about your business.
Okay.
For example, let's take product liability, right?
Okay.
If you're mainly baking cookies and cakes, your risk is probably a lot lower than someone who is making, let's say, canned goods or pickled products,
Okay.
because those have a higher chance of, botulism or something like that.
Oh, right. Because they could go bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even within those low risk categories that cottage food laws allow, there's nuances based on the product.
Okay. Gotcha. So it really is about understanding the specifics of your operation. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's where, what we call risk tolerance comes into play.
Okay.
Some people are okay with having a higher deductible to keep their premiums low,
Okay.
knowing that if a claim does come up, they're going to have to pay more out of pocket.
Gotcha.
Whereas other people prefer that maximum coverage and that peace of mind,
Right.
even if it means higher upfront costs.
So there's a personal element to it as
Yeah.
well. It's not It's not just about the numbers.
Absolutely. And that's why working with, an insurance agent who specializes in cottage food businesses can be really valuable.
Right.
Because they can kind of help you navigate those complexities,
Okay.
explain all the fine print, and find that policy that aligns with your business needs, but also your comfort level with risk.
Yeah, it's like finding an expert who speaks your language.
Exactly. Exactly.
But what about for those, who might be just starting out and they don't have like a big budget, to get that professional advice? Are there any other resources that are out there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's some amazing online resources now specifically for cottage food businesses.
Okay.
There's websites, forums where you can connect with other people,
Okay.
share experiences, get recommendations for insurance providers who really get the unique challenges of this industry.
That's a great point.
Hmm.
I love that, you know, just connecting with other people and hearing what they've gone through.
Yeah.
But I imagine it could also be um, a little overwhelming trying to go through all that information. Like,
Yeah.
what are some red flags, to look for when you're researching insurance online? Like, what are things that people should be aware of?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always say, be cautious of policies that seem too good to be true.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times those extremely low premiums
Right.
come with either very limited coverage
Right.
or very high deductibles.
Okay, so it could end up costing you more in the long run
Exactly.
if you actually have to make a claim.
Exactly. So always, always read the fine print.
Right.
Make sure you really understand what you're getting.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to call them up
Oh, yeah.
and ask questions.
Absolutely. I mean, any good insurance company is going to be happy to explain their policies and address any concerns that you might have.
Yeah, it's like any other big purchase.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
You wouldn't buy a car without test driving it first.
Exactly. Exactly. And again, that's where those online communities can really be helpful.
Right.
Because you can hear from other cottage food entrepreneurs who have experience with different providers, right? And they can give you valuable insights.
And save you from making any mistakes.
Exactly.
We've talked a lot about the practicalities of finding insurance and all that, but I want to go back to something that you mentioned a little bit earlier,
Okay.
which was like the whole legal aspect of things. How important is it to understand like state-specific cottage food laws when you're choosing insurance?
It is absolutely crucial
Sure.
because cottage food laws can be very different from state to state.
Okay.
And they're always changing and evolving.
Oh, so it's not a one-time thing.
It is definitely not a one-time thing.
Okay.
What's allowed in one state might be completely prohibited in another.
Gotcha.
And those regulations are going to have a direct impact on what your insurance needs are.
Okay. So it's not just about understanding like the types of insurance, but you got to understand the legal framework that your business is operating in.
Precisely. For example, some states might have specific insurance requirements for certain types of cottage food operations,
Right.
like if you're handling high-risk foods,
Okay.
or if you're selling at farmers markets.
Gotcha.
Things like that.
It sounds like it could be a little bit of a minefield,
It can be challenging, for sure.
Sure.
But luckily there are, resources to help. A lot of states have their own, government websites that are dedicated to cottage food laws.
Okay.
And there are also organizations that specifically provide, support and guidance for food entrepreneurs.
So it's about doing your homework
Exactly.
and staying up to date on everything.
Exactly.
I got to admit, even with all this information, I'm still kind of a little intimidated, by the whole insurance process.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I figure out what, policies I need,
Right.
but then like, how do I actually compare quotes? How do I choose a provider? Like that part, I still find a little daunting.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. It's a common concern.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be as daunting as it seems.
Like,
The key is to really just kind of break it down into manageable steps.
Okay.
So once you've kind of, identified what types of insurance you need for your business, just start by, requesting quotes from a few different providers.
Okay.
You can do that online. You can do that over the phone or, through an agent if you're working with one.
Okay.
And just, start comparing.
So it's just like, shopping around for the best deal, just like you would for anything else.
Exactly. Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions,
Right.
A good insurance provider is going to be happy to walk you through the details of their policy, explain all the limits and deductibles,
Okay.
and address any concerns you might have about your specific cottage food operation.
This is all super helpful. I
Yeah.
feel like we're starting to like demystify this whole insurance thing
Yeah, I hope so.
for our listener.
I hope so.
But there's one more thing that I kind of want to touch on.
Right.
We've talked about protecting ourselves financially and all that, but what about emotionally?
Right.
Starting a business, any business, but especially a food business,
Yeah.
can be really personal. You
Hmm.
know, how do cottage food entrepreneurs kind of cope with like that fear of failure or possibility of something going wrong?
Yeah, that's such a great question, and it's something that I think honestly is often overlooked in
Yeah.
the business world.
Right.
Entrepreneurship can be it's a roller coaster, right?
Mhm.
And there are going to be ups and downs,
Right.
and it's very natural to feel fear and anxiety, especially when you're putting your heart and soul into something.
It's like you're putting a piece of yourself out there. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, and when it comes to food, I think there's an added layer of responsibility because you're literally feeding people,
Yeah. Right.
So there's definitely that aspect of it as well.
So how do you kind of balance that passion
Right.
with like the inherent risks of running a food business?
Yeah. Well, I think it comes down to, finding ways to manage those risks effectively.
Okay.
And that's really where insurance plays a key role, right? It's
Right.
not just about protecting your finances.
Mm.
It's also about protecting your peace of mind.
Okay.
Knowing that you have that safety net in place can really give you the confidence to take risks, to experiment, to grow your business without being paralyzed by that fear.
So it's like a security blanket in a way.
Yeah, in a way, yes.
So you can actually pursue your passion with more freedom and more confidence.
Exactly. So it's about kind of changing that perspective of insurance from being, a burden like, ugh, I have to get insurance,
Right.
to, okay, insurance is actually a tool that empowers me to achieve my dreams.
I love that.
And remember, building a successful business takes time.
Right.
It takes effort. It takes a willingness to learn and adapt, you
Yeah.
know? So don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Right.
Seek help when you need it
Mm.
and celebrate those successes along the way.
That's great advice. I really appreciate you saying that.
Of course. Of course.
Because it's easy to get caught up in the fear of failure.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely.
But you have to celebrate those wins.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, something that I've been thinking about is that, we've talked about insurance like as it exists today,
Right.
but like in a world where, technology is constantly changing and how we do business is constantly changing.
Mm.
How do you think insurance is going to evolve
Right.
to meet the needs of, these cottage food entrepreneurs in the future?
That is a fascinating question, and it's one that I think the insurance industry is actively grappling with right now,
Yeah.
as more and more people are kind of embracing that entrepreneurial spirit and,
Right.
and launching home-based businesses,
Oh, yeah.
especially in the food sector. There's going to be this growing demand for insurance solutions
Yeah.
that are specifically tailored to their unique needs and challenges.
So, can we expect to see like more innovative and more flexible insurance products, popping up in the next few years?
Absolutely. I think we'll see a shift towards more personalized insurance plans,
Okay.
right, that are based on an individual's risk profile rather than those one-size-fits-all policies.
Right. So not just checking boxes, but actually looking at each individual case.
Exactly. Exactly. We might also see, the emergence of on-demand insurance options
Okay.
where cottage food businesses can kind of purchase coverage only when they need it.
Okay.
So maybe just for certain events or periods of high sales volume.
That's interesting. So it's like super targeted.
Exactly. And then, with the rise of online platforms
Mhm.
and data analytics and things like that, I think we can expect to see insurance providers really leveraging technology
Okay.
to make things easier.
Right.
Streamline the process of assessing risk, providing quotes, and managing claims.
Right. Right.
So it can make the whole experience much smoother and more efficient for cottage food businesses.
So it sounds like the future of cottage food insurance,
Yeah.
It's looking pretty bright. There's going to be more options.
Yeah, I think so. As technology continues to evolve,
Right.
I think the insurance industry is going to find even more innovative ways to support and empower cottage food entrepreneurs,
Yeah. Right.
to help them achieve their dreams.
Yeah. That's great. Well, this has been a super insightful conversation.
It's good.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
I really feel like, our listener is going to walk away with a much better understanding of, not just the practicalities of insurance, but also like the emotional intelligence it takes to kind of manage all those risks.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's an important topic,
Yeah.
for sure.
So before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to get your thoughts on something that's been kind of on my mind.
Okay, I'm all yours.
Okay. So we've talked about insurance as it exists today, but in a world where technology is rapidly changing the way we do business,
Mm-hmm.
how do you think insurance will evolve to meet the unique needs of cottage food entrepreneurs in the future?
That's a fascinating question. And it's one that I believe the insurance industry is actively grappling with as we speak. As more and more people embrace the entrepreneurial spirit and launch home-based businesses, especially in the food sector, there will be a growing demand for insurance solutions that are tailored to their specific needs and challenges.
So can we expect to see more innovative and flexible insurance products emerging in the coming years?
Absolutely. I think we'll see a shift towards personalized insurance plans that are based on individual risk profiles rather than the one-size-fits-all policies that have been common in the past. We might also see the emergence of on-demand insurance options that allow cottage food businesses to purchase coverage only when they need it, such as for specific events or periods of high sales volume.
That sounds incredibly convenient and cost-effective.
Exactly. And with the rise of online platforms and data analytics, I think we can expect to see insurance providers leveraging technology to streamline the process of assessing risk, providing quotes, and managing claims. It could potentially make the whole experience much smoother and more efficient for cottage food businesses.
So it seems like the future of cottage food insurance is looking bright, with more options and flexibility on the horizon.
Absolutely. And as technology continues to evolve, I'm confident that the insurance industry will find even more innovative ways to support and empower cottage food entrepreneurs in achieving their dreams.
This has been such an insightful and inspiring conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. I think our listener is walking away with a wealth of knowledge and a newfound appreciation for the crucial role insurance plays in the success of any cottage food business.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, knowledge is power. The more informed you are, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the exciting world of entrepreneurship and build a thriving cottage food business.
Well said. So before we wrap up this deep dive, is there one final nugget of wisdom you'd like to leave our listener with? Something to ponder as they embark on their cottage food journey.
Absolutely. My final piece of advice would be to view insurance not as a necessary evil, but as a strategic partner in your business's success. It's an investment in your peace of mind, your financial stability, and your ability to thrive in the exciting world of cottage food entrepreneurship.
That's a fantastic way to frame it. Insurance as a strategic partner, not a burden. I love that.
And remember, as your business grows and evolves, so too should your insurance strategy. Regularly reassess your risks, stay informed about industry trends, and don't hesitate to seek professional advice to ensure you have the right coverage in place every step of the way.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've uncovered so much valuable information about cottage food insurance, from understanding the different types of coverage to finding the right provider, navigating the evolving landscape of the industry, and even managing the emotional aspects of risk management.
It's been a pleasure diving deep into this topic with you and our listener. Remember, knowledge is power, and by arming yourself with information, you can make informed decisions that set your cottage food business up for success.
So as we wrap up this episode, here's a final thought-provoking question to leave our listener with. If you could design the perfect insurance policy for cottage food businesses, what unique features or benefits would it include?
Ooh, that's a great one. It really challenges you to think outside the box and envision a future where insurance truly empowers small food businesses to thrive.
And, as we're talking about the future, it makes me wonder if there might be entirely new types of insurance that emerge specifically for cottage food businesses.
What's fascinating here is that you're absolutely right. We could see coverage tailored to things like social media reputation damage in case a negative online review goes viral, or maybe even insurance for recipe theft, protecting those culinary masterpieces you've poured your heart into.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like the insurance industry is constantly playing catch-up with the ever-evolving landscape of entrepreneurship.
And that's actually a good thing. It means there's a recognition of the unique needs of cottage food businesses and a willingness to adapt and create solutions that support their growth.
So for all our listeners out there who are just starting out on their cottage food journey, What's the most important piece of advice you can give them when it comes to insurance?
If we connect this back to the bigger picture, I'd say it's this. Don't wait until something goes wrong to start thinking about insurance. It's much easier and often more affordable to secure coverage when you're first starting out. Think of it as building a strong foundation for your business, one that can withstand any storms that might come your way.
That's such a powerful analogy. It's like insurance is the bedrock upon which your cottage food dreams can safely flourish.
Precisely. And remember, it's not just about ticking a box or meeting legal requirements. It's about making a conscious decision to protect yourself, your business, and your passion.
This deep dive has been absolutely eye-opening. We've explored the ins and outs of cottage food insurance, from the essential types of coverage to the factors influencing costs, the evolving landscape of the industry, and even the emotional aspects of risk management.
It's been a pleasure diving deep into this topic with you and our listener. Remember, knowledge is power, and by arming yourself with information, you can make informed decisions that set your cottage food business up for success.
So, as we wrap up this episode, here's a final thought-provoking question to leave our listener with. If you could design the perfect insurance policy for cottage food businesses, what unique features or benefits would it include?
Ooh, that's a great one. It really challenges you to think outside the box and envision a future where insurance truly empowers small food businesses to thrive.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. But the conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep baking up those delicious dreams.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about the present, we've talked about the future of cottage food insurance, but before we completely wrap up, I want to touch on something we mentioned briefly a little earlier,
Okay.
which are state-specific regulations.
Yes.
I have to admit, it's a little overwhelming, trying to wrap my brain around all the legalities.
It's definitely a crucial aspect of running a successful cottage food business.
Hmm.
And it can feel like a bit of a puzzle to piece together.
Right,
Cottage food laws are designed to protect both consumers and businesses,
right.
but they can vary so much from state to state.
So where do you even begin? It's like each state has its own secret recipe or something?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, like a recipe. You have to follow the instructions carefully
All right.
to get the desired result.
Right, okay.
So the first step is really to identify the specific regulations in your state.
Oh.
Most states have, government websites that are dedicated to cottage food laws.
Okay.
And they kind of outline everything from permitted food items to licensing requirements to labeling guidelines, all that good stuff.
Okay, so you got to find those regulations.
Yeah.
But then how do you actually make sense of them? Because sometimes it's like reading another language.
I totally agree. Like,
That's what?
legal jargon can be really daunting. So my tip would be
Okay.
to look for resources that break it down
Okay.
into plain English.
Okay.
Some states will have like fact sheets
All right.
or guides specifically for cottage food operators.
Right.
And there are also organizations out there like the Cottage Food Law Center
Mhm.
that provide these really helpful explanations and resources.
So it's like you got to find that, that translator to help you understand, all that legal stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And don't hesitate to reach out to your local health department or regulatory agencies if you have specific questions.
Okay.
They can provide guidance, they can provide clarification on how those laws apply to your specific business.
So it's about being proactive and seeking out those resources, those trusted resources.
Absolutely. And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because once you have a good understanding of the legal landscape,
Right.
you can start to see how that intersects with your insurance needs.
Okay.
Right? Because, for example, some states might require specific types of insurance
Okay.
for certain cottage food activities.
So, yeah.
Like if you're selling at farmers markets or if you're producing, certain high-risk foods.
Well, so you got to know what's going on legally
Yes.
so that you can figure out what insurance you need.
Exactly. It's like having a roadmap
Okay.
that guides you towards the right insurance strategy
Well,
for your unique situation. And remember, regulations can change, so it's important to stay updated
Right. Right.
and adapt your insurance accordingly.
Wow. It sounds like being a cottage food entrepreneur. It takes more than just, knowing how to cook.
Yeah.
You got to have a little bit of legal knowledge.
A little bit of legal savvy.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
hit the nail on the head.
It's okay. Okay, good.
It's definitely a multifaceted endeavor,
Mm-hmm.
and knowledge is truly power in this business, you know?
Right, right.
The more you understand about the legal aspects, the insurance aspects, the better equipped you're going to be
Okay.
to navigate the challenges
Right.
and really thrive in this exciting industry.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
From understanding the different types of insurance to risk tolerance to future trends to legal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a really great deep dive.
Good.
I feel like I'm walking away, our listeners walking away
Yeah.
with a lot more knowledge than we came in with. You know what I mean?
Good. I'm glad to hear that. It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you
Yeah.
and our listener, you know.
Right.
I always find it fascinating to kind of explore this intersection
Yeah.
of food and business and law, and
It's all connected.
it's all connected, exactly.
Yeah.
So I hope our conversation has provided some valuable takeaways for anyone kind of venturing into this world
No.
of cottage food entrepreneurship.
But before we say goodbye,
Okay.
I got to ask you one more question.
Okay.
It's kind of off the
Boy,
wall.
I love off the wall questions.
If you could wave a magic wand
Okay.
and create like the perfect insurance policy
Okay.
for cottage food businesses, what would it look like?
Ooh, that is a fun question. Okay, let me put on my imaginary insurance wizard hat here for a second.
Okay.
I think the perfect cottage food policy would go beyond just financial protection, right?
Okay.
And it would really offer a suite of resources
Okay.
and support services specifically for this industry, you know?
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So imagine a policy that includes access to a network of food safety experts
Okay.
who could provide guidance on best practices.
Okay.
You know, recipe development, labeling requirements. Yeah.
Maybe it even offers discounts on food handling certifications
Sure.
or kitchen inspections,
Mhm.
things that can really help entrepreneurs kind of meet those regulatory hurdles more easily.
That would be amazing. It's like having like a built-in support system, you know,
Exactly.
to help you figure all that stuff out.
Exactly, yeah. And maybe this perfect policy could also incorporate features that address those emerging risks we talked about, right?
Okay.
Like reputation management or intellectual property protection for unique recipes.
Oh, wow.
Maybe it even offers educational resources on things like marketing and social media and e-commerce.
Okay.
Really empowering cottage food entrepreneurs to not just survive, but thrive in the digital age.
You've really thought this out.
Well, that's a fun question. So
Yeah. It makes you think. It makes you think.
it does.
It sounds like the ultimate safety net, you know?
Right.
Not just financially, but emotional.
Where you can pursue your passion and know that you're supported.
Exactly. It's about creating that insurance experience that feels more like a partnership,
Right.
like a supportive ecosystem
Mhm.
that really helps small food businesses flourish.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing all your knowledge.
It's been my pleasure.
I feel like our listener is gonna, walk away with a lot more knowledge and
Yes.
and excitement for this whole cottage food thing.
Yeah, it's an exciting industry for sure.
It is. It's very exciting.
Lots of potential.
Yeah. So for everyone listening out there who's thinking about starting a cottage food business, or maybe they already have one,
Mm-hmm.
what's the one most important piece of advice
Okay.
you can give them about insurance?
Well, if we kind of connect it back to the bigger picture, I
Mhm.
would say, don't wait until something goes wrong to start thinking about insurance. It's much easier
Okay.
and oftentimes more affordable to secure coverage when you're first starting out.
Okay.
So think of it as building a strong foundation for
Mm.
your business, one that can withstand any storms that may come your way.
It's like insurance is the bedrock
Mm.
upon which you can build your cottage food empire.
Exactly.
I love that.
And remember, it's not just about, ticking a box
Right.
or meeting a legal requirement.
Right.
It's about making a conscious decision
Okay.
to protect yourself, your business,
Right.
and your passion.
That's great. I love that.
Thank you.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Oh,
But the
great.
conversation doesn't have to end here.
No, definitely not.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep baking up those delicious dreams.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Sounds good.